Hello and welcome to another edition of the ProtoBalls Talk Podcast. I'm ProtoMet,
I'm Barry.
and today we will be diving into the cyber world of Ghost in the Shell,
It's a cyberpunk movie.
the quintessential cyberpunk movie.
Yeah, cyberpunk anime, at least. Maybe not necessarily mainstream cyberpunk movie.
I'm sure there would be a lot of people who would argue against that point.
Although wasn't there a live-action movie with Scarlett Johansson?
We do not talk of that blasphemy.
Yes. Of course.
No, we're talking about the Japanese-British co-production.
Wasn't that... Wasn't that movie like 10 years ago?
I don't care because I don't care to even want to watch it.
Well, that sounds like a you problem, bud.
It's also a racist problem.
Well, that too, but that's a whole other issue with Hollywood. That's a Hollywood problem.
But no, we are reviewing the 95 animated film based on the manga series by Shiro Masamune.
Yes.
Which
Directed by Mamoru Oshii, or Oshii Mamoru.
he's a guy I've mentioned before over on another channel because we recently talked about the first Patlabor movie, which was also directed by him.
Right.
He also did the early episodes of Urusei Yatsura as well as its first two movies.
Nice.
He did a bunch of other stuff.
So, for reference, we did the original 95 movie. We didn't do 2.0.
2.0 is basically the original movie, but with enhanced special effects and reanimated sequences. It's largely the same as the original movie, just with a visual upgrade. So, if you pick up the 2.0 Blu-ray, you're still getting the original movie as a bonus. So, it's fine to pick up. It's a 2-for-1 deal, and you're still getting the movie that is the quintessential classic.
So the year is 2029.
Far-flung year of 2029.
The future of 2029.
Doesn't quite compare to another far-flung year that me and Tank talked about recently, but that podcast won't be coming out until next month.
Was it 2015? Just kidding.
No, it was the far-flung year of 1999.
Oh, yeah. The far-flung future of 1999, according to, like, maybe a 50s or 60s movie.
It might have been 70s, but
Might
you're
have
not
been
far
70s.
off.
God, we were so dumb back then to think, like, man, it's like 1971. In 30 years from now, it'll be 2001. We'll have flying cars and robots and oh my god! And it's like, guys.
Well, we didn't exactly the movie we talked about didn't exactly have flying cars, but it did think that we'd have a handle on the giant monster situation, which we're still dealing with. Wait.
Hey, tsunamis still happen.
Okay, fair enough.
I blame Godzilla for that. Although
That's fair. He lives there.
Although I imagine that would be a bit insensitive.
I mean,
Who cares? No one cares.
except for the people that do.
Yeah, but those people don't listen to this podcast.
Unless they do.
Unless they do. But I've yet to be proven otherwise.
Well, you don't look at the analytics, and I don't either, but that's completely beside the point.
Anyway, basically, 2029, cybernetic technology has taken pretty much a foothold of...
Pretty much everybody has at least some cybernetics in their body, mostly in their brain, which allows everybody to connect to the internet. And this was like the early days of the internet. Or at least movie was made in the early days of the internet.
This was made when the World Wide Web had just gotten released in like late 93, early 94. the fucking the old what's the movie called that I'm thinking of? The old Space Jam website had not been made yet, and that's still around, by the way.
Well, last I checked, but I haven't checked in a while.
Yeah, from 1996. It's one of the oldest. One of the oldest extant websites on the Surface web, at least.
You don't even need to go on the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, you can just go to it and it's there. This was after ARPANET, because ARPANET was in the 80s. The World Wide Web had just gotten released. I forget which company. I was looking this up like a couple of weeks ago. I forget which company released the protocol for HTTPS, for like actual addresses for internet websites.
Your guess is as good as mine.
So this is like...
Actually, your guess is better than mine.
So there's... one way of looking at it is there's 4 eras of the internet. Or rather, 5 eras. There's the pre-World Wide Web, which is before 1994, from like 1975, when everybody used modems in science labs to connect to one another.
Or check their coffee.
Yeah.
Very first webcam.
Yeah. Then there was the very early internet era, which is 94 to, I want to say, about 2004, which is just right at the advent of websites being made. That had the .com boom, which was a huge thing in the early 90s. You could not go anywhere without fucking Yahoo ads and everything. Google was like just brand new at the time. Like, I think they were founded 99, 2000 or something. And then we get to like the big area that most people are aware of, which is like 2005 to like 2008, 2017 or so, where the social media became bigger and bigger. Streaming sites also started getting big, and then we're in the current era where everything is becoming fucking homogenized, and we've got AI swallowing everything up, and it's all bleak and Web 3.0 and scams.
So we're pretty much on track to be in Ghost in the Shell real
Yeah,
soon.
kinda. It is a dystopia. Yeah, Japan, everything is a dystopia. It's like, you know what it reminds me of? It's very reminiscent of Blade Runner.
I've never seen that.
But that's one we do need to see at some point.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, internet connected to the brain. People have their ghosts, which is
basically their soul.
Their soul,
for lack of a better term. We'll still keep calling him ghosts because the movie keeps doing so.
And then the body is the shell. So the title of the manga is very on the nose. Soul in the body.
However, if you're reading the Japanese title, which just translates to Mobile Armored Riot Police, it still technically works. It's just,
I guess,
it's just less philosophical.
So our main character is Motoko Kusanagi,
aka the Major.
Yep. Yeah. Assault team leader for Public Security Sector 9.
Section 9.
I don't care. Show up. No. Newport City, which I think is supposed to be like a stand-in for Tokyo or something.
They do kind of have it be like, I can't remember what city. Shanghai, I think?
It's Shanghai in China?
There's a lot of like Eastern Asian influence going on throughout this entire movie, not just in the setting.
Okay. Oh, you're saying it's inspired by Shanghai.
Yeah.
Not that it is Shanghai. I was like, what is this, a timeline where fucking Japan wins World War II?
I mean, maybe. I mean, going based solely off of the standalone Complex television series, this is an alternate history series.
That's fair.
Like, that show constantly makes references to a war that we never learn anything about, as far as I'm aware.
She interferes in a police arrest as she successfully assassinates a foreign diplomat who is trying to
Convince
a programmer to defect
back to the country.
back to
The programmer was originally from this country of Gavil.
Okay.
And then he defected to Japan, and now this Gavil diplomat is attempting to get him back.
Yes.
And Section 6 is trying to prevent that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
And Modoko, who's from Section 9, assassinates the diplomat, causing a whole fracas.
Yeah, the whole thing is kind of confusing, but I guess Section 9 is like the secret ops.
Basically.
And then Section 6 is like the
foreign affairs.
It's foreign affairs. And the foreign minister has an issue because their interpreter has been hacked by a mysterious
hacker known as the Puppet Master.
Yes. Who manages to control the shells remotely somehow, some way. I guess through the internet.
Yeah. And we end up learning that they're doing it via a garbage man who thinks that he's ghost hacking his wife.
Right.
His divorced wife. This ends up leading to like a car chase.
This leads to a car chase and a shootout in a crowd of people. Actually, it's actually a really good scene.
The shootout happens when the garbage man's contact realizes he's being tailed and tries to retaliate, while also wearing stealth camo.
Yes, and maybe like a little body armor too.
Probably.
But they follow him, and this contact, he doesn't really have a name, but this contact, he ends up getting chased all the way down to the shoreline of Newport City, and unfortunately for him, Makoto also has stealth armor.
And kicks his ass.
Kicks his fucking ass.
She has better stealth armor because she's with the government.
Well, that's true. That's true. So as it turns out, as they're being not interrogated, as they're being interrogated, Makoto and the crew kind of realize that these people don't fucking know anything.
I think they already knew. They knew right from the get-go that these two, the garbage man and his contact, they themselves had been hacked.
Right.
I mean, the contact doesn't even remember who he is, basically. He has, like, no memories. Whereas the garbage man had been hacked into thinking he had a divorced wife and daughter, when really he'd been a bachelor for like 10 years, at least.
Yeah. That's really fucked. That's why this movie is a dystopia. It's kind of fucked.
Then a lady gets hit by a truck on the highway. Except it's a cyborg with an errant program in its mind that the company didn't actually make the company that made the body,
Megatech body.
Megatech body. They didn't program their computers to make this body. Their computers made this body on its own. And there seems to be a ghost inside of it.
Yes.
Which is concerning for Section 9 because a lot of the cyborgs that work there use Megatech Corp bodies themselves.
So Section 9 basically has, they have possession of the body, and they're examining it, and they realize that there is, as he said, a ghost in there. And Section 9 comes in all hot.
Section 6.
Or Section 6 comes in all hot and bothered, and they're like, nope, this is ours. We're taking possession of it. We want it. And Section 9 is like, whoa, hold on, buddy. Hold on.
And then the body's like, I want asylum. I'm the puppet master.
Hi there, I am the puppet master. I would like asylum, please.
As a living entity. And then Section 6 is like, well, we made this body so that the puppet master would be lured into taking over this body, and then we killed the real puppet master.
Now, yes, basically. And so I don't suppose we have to keep it spoiler free, but Section 6 are the bad guys in this movie, only by technicality. Because really what this movie is just two different government departments feuding with one another.
But at the core of the film, it's about a cyborg woman who is questioning her identity in a world where cyborgs are commonplace.
Yeah.
Does she really exist as an individual entity, or is her history just a program?
Right.
And the puppet master is ultimately revealed to have originated as a program created by Section 6 as part of their international dealings.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the plan was for the program.
It was basically to influence international politics by having a third party do the dirty work. That Section 6 could be like, oh, this is an international terrorist.
So espionage, basically.
Basically.
Yeah.
Espionage, assassinations.
State terrorism.
Yeah.
And
Section 6 could claim to not be involved when they created the program.
I mean, well, yeah, they could have plausible deniability. I mean, you can't link it directly to us. So, I mean, why would you think it's us?
Of course, that all kind of backfires when their project 2501 gains sentience.
Yeah.
And free will is like, I don't want to be involved in this anymore.
Yeah. So and so Section 6 basically busts in
with their stealth camouflage cyborg, bust up the place and steal the body.
So now the puppet master's gone. Section 6 has possession of it.
Section 9 goes after them.
Yes.
Because thankfully the Major and two of her closest associates, Bato and Togusa, who's the rookie on the team, managed to figure out that there's something up with Section 6 before shit goes down.
Which is interesting. Because Kosuga is actually the only one who doesn't have any cybernetic equipment.
Well, he does have some, but it's like a bare minimum requirement. And it's him and the chief of Section 9, Aramaki.
Mm-hmm.
They have the least cybernetics on them, but the reason why Togusa was picked was because he was a cop. He was a good cop.
Yeah.
And they needed somebody who wasn't heavily cyberized to basically act as a counterbalance to the rest of the team.
God, what are we doing? Cop washing here? Just kidding. He was a good cop.
And he remains a good cop. Good, honest cop.
Yeah, certainly not Matoko, though.
I mean...
We saw her assassinated, dude, alright? I'm just saying. The police force here seems a little excessive.
I mean, it's not technically the police force; it's a government agency.
So the CIA.
Basi-
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, there is a difference, little as it is.
No kidding. CIA can get away with whatever they want, basically.
Oh, you better not say that, otherwise you might disappear.
I'll get disappeared to El Salvador?
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on, yeah. During all of this, also, we do have scenes of Motoko just sort of wandering around the city, sort of in her own free time. She likes to do deep diving.
And something that you probably didn't notice is that there are multiple women with her body.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is a detail I didn't realize until I was reading the standalone Complex books, but her body is intended to look like a normal off-the-shelf default model.
She's a template.
Kind of.
Or at least her model is a template.
Or it's supposed to look like one.
Yeah.
Inside it's a lot different because of the Wetworks nature of her job, but
yeah.
But it's supposed to look generic.
So Kusanagi and his team are at this point they're like, okay, so Section 6 is involved somehow. We need to figure out how they're involved. And so
that's in the midst of a car chase.
That's in the midst of a car chase, and they managed to chase down the vehicle. It's to an abandoned factory. And Motoko.
I thought it was like a museum.
Oh, it might have been an abandoned. Yeah, I think it was an abandoned museum.
I mean, I would assume that all the fossils that lined the wall and the Tree of Life.
Do you know what it is? Because they had a passing mention of like, oh yeah, no one's been here since like
the Olympics.
Since the Olympics, and then apparently there was like a disaster that happened.
Probably the war that takes place in this franchise's history.
Yeah,
possibly. I mean, there's just a lot of speculation because there's a lot of unsaid lore for this franchise, which is actually a good way of making the series feel lived in without having to explain all the minutiae.
Yeah. And what ends up happening is Kusanagi
has to fight an invisible tank.
And that's a really cool scene, actually. Because she's up shit creek without a paddle.
With like, she's got some heavy artillery, but she's fighting a tank. She's basically Solid Snake in this scene,
except without the grenades.
No, she uses one grenade.
Okay, one grenade. I'm sorry. It's like that. It's like that part in Metal Gear Solid 1 where you meet Vulcan Raven for the first time.
Except he's driving a Metal Gear. Not a nuclear-equipped Metal Gear, but a Metal Gear nonetheless.
Yes, he is.
A Metal Gear that has stealth.
A mini Metal Gear. A stealth? So, Metal Gear Ray?
Maybe.
Actually, stealth feature? Okay, you know what? It might actually be Big Shell. Now that I think about it. Sorry, Metal Gear brain rot. What ends up happening, though, is that Kusanagi ends up getting dismembered because she's trying to tear open the hole. Not the hole, but like the
hatch to get into the tank.
Yeah.
And so she ends up tearing her own arms off. And just as she's about to get her head crushed by this tank's claw, Bato shoots the tank pilot.
Yeah, kills the tank pilot.
Driver.
Kills the driver with a rocket propelled device.
No, he just shoots him with a gun.
Shoots it with a gun. Oh, maybe it was a rail gun.
I mean, maybe, but the guy's head is largely intact. That's important to the plot. Because they end up using his brain as a sort of pass-through to connect Kusanagi's brain to the Puppet Master's brain.
Okay. Yeah.
So that they can communicate. And the Puppet Master's like, hey, can I fuse with you? I mean, I've basically gained life in all but the ability to procreate. Yeah, I know I can copy myself, but that's just making duplicates. I want to create a whole new life form and gain the ability to die so that I can properly be alive.
And thus brings the question, what does it mean to be alive?
So the two do end up fusing, but...
Speaking on this, actually, there's a philosophical thought experiment. You've heard of Schrodinger's cat,
yeah.
right? It's a thought experiment about a superposition of unknown chance. Basically, you got a cat. They're in a box. There's a vial of poison. If you they're in a superposition of either being alive or dead, and the only way of knowing whether or not they're actually alive or dead is by opening the box. And the thought experiment is about sort of cosmic chance and superposition. But there's a secondary thought experiment.
Before we go forward, it should be noted that the Schrodinger's cat thought experiment was intended as a criticism of quantum theory.
Yes.
It just works so well in basically giving a broad explanation of quantum theory.
Yeah. It's a criticism of it because it's like, well, if you can't know everything.
You can't have it both ways simultaneously, which is what quantum entanglement entails.
Yes.
Quantum positioning, superpositioning.
Superpositioning and quantum entanglement is a slightly different thing, and I think that's the one that Einstein coined as spooky action, spooky motion at a distance. But there's a secondary thought experiment, which is essentially Schrodinger's cat, but from the perspective of the cat, and it's two separate terms, but for the thought experiment itself, it is called quantum suicide, and then the secondary piece of it that I actually want to talk about is quantum immortality, and essentially it is looking at it like this is that in a situation where fate is uncertain, there will always be you will never know that the negative outcome has happened because you will always be aware of a positive outcome. So, for example, just to use it as an example, say I was hit by a bus, right? Well, suppose in this time, and it's a many worlds interpretation, by the way. So suppose in this timeline I die, but I wouldn't know I died because you can't be aware that you died. So your consciousness would be transferred to a different world in which you survive. Thus, effectively, you are quantumly through quantum mechanics, you are effectively immortal. So that's something that's just interesting that I thought I'd bring up here because it kind of ties into this. Having a consciousness, being able to copy itself endlessly, but also wanting to be alive and to also die. It's a sort of a quantum thought experiment. So there you go. Interesting learning experience for you.
But yeah, so the Major and the Puppet Master end up fusing, but just as this is happening, Section 6 basically assassinates the Puppet Master and attempts to assassinate the Major, but Bato jumps in and sacrifices an arm to save her.
Yeah. And then she awakes with a child's body.
Which, for Bato's credit, was the only thing he could find on the black market and was not to his preference. He makes that explicitly clear.
But yeah, so essentially, the whole thing kind of ends in a stalemate for both Section 9 and Section 6. Section 6, got caught out on the experiment, and
Their head resigned, but they as an organization still exist because they are part of the broader government.
correct. And Section 9, they, Bato lost an arm, Kusanagi lost a body,
And is effectively rendered dead, but in actuality.
right. And Kusanagi says that she's basically not Kusanagi anymore, but a combination of both her and the Major.
And the Puppet Master.
And her and the Puppet Master. So, and it basically ends with her leaving the safe house to go live her new life as a child. With an adult head, actually. Which is...
An adult's brain and a child's body, which would be a weird thing if not for the fact that this takes place in a cybernetic world.
This takes place in a dystopia, so...
A cybernetic dystopia.
A cybernetic dystopia. Oh, and so that's how the movie ends. And as soon as it finished, I was like, so essentially nothing happened. In the grand scheme of, sure, yeah, sure, Kusanagi gets a new body and she's basically a new entity. Section 6 is caught out on their experiment and really...
Get a slap on the wrist at worst.
They get a slap on the wrist at worst. Section 9 loses a member, effectively. And so I was like, in the grand scheme of things, it's like nothing actually happened. There was no actual real life. There were no
consequences for anybody's actions.
Yeah,
and that's pretty reflective of real life, to be honest.
Yeah, that's kind of the dystopia. Not everything's gonna be wrapped up nice and neat.
And this story wasn't trying to be like, oh, this character is going to save the world and overthrow the corrupt government. It's like, no, this movie is a philosophical treatise on consciousness in an increasingly digital age.
It's kind of like Evangelion in a way, except Evangelion is more like, hey, just learn to make friends, talk to people. It sucks, and you may be hurt, but hey.
You're gonna be better for it in the end.
You're gonna be better for it. And meanwhile, it's all giant robots and fucking angst and Shinji jerking off to an unconscious Ray.
He's not wrong, but we do have differing opinions on whether or not the show is good.
Listen, I hate Evangelion. I admit it's a good. Listen. Trying to be as objective as possible. It's a good show. It's a very transformative show. It's a very influential show. These are all objective facts. It's a very well written show. I just don't like it.
And I do.
I Shinji to me is just abhorrent. I hate him as a character. I get it. That he's supposed to be angsty and a coward and all this. But, fucking... Shinji, get in the fucking robot. It's literally the meme. It's just like, Shinji, the world's going to end. Get in the fucking robot. Quit complaining. Nobody cares about you. There's bigger stuff happening right now.
I mean, you're not wrong, but this is a topic we could totally cover. Just when covering Evangelion, if we ever decide to.
Yeah, if we ever decide to. But so it was like, okay, that with that ending aside, I liked the movie. I don't, because it's 30 years old now. I don't think it's like a masterpiece. I don't think it's like a 9 or a 10. I think it's like a 7.5, maybe an 8.
I view this as being the essential cyberpunk story that it is.
Sure, but like,
There's a reason why a lot of other pieces of media use this as a jumping off. It's basically how this became the Road Warrior, but for cyberpunk movies. There's a reason why a lot of cyberpunk movies use this as a template.
I get that, and I can see it, and I could see it. It's just like this. It's not for me. You know, it's just not for me.
What are your thoughts on the Matrix? Just adding blush.
And a blush. Listen, Matrix. That's a whole other can of worms. That's also. Matrix is also like, yeah, you got bullet time, you got cool action scenes, but then like when people are talking and ranting, it's like, I get it. You've gotta. What is it? It's like the fucking Family Guy meme where it's like, it insists upon itself. It insists upon itself. It's got a valid point to make. That's why it's insisting.
Does Ghost in the Shell insist on itself?
I don't know. I don't think necessarily. I don't see, because like with the Matrix, you get in and then you've got what is it? It's like 30 minutes of just straight like not lore dump. What's the exposition? It's like 30 minutes of straight exposition where sometimes there's just nothing happen, but it's just Neo listening to somebody explain a thing, and it's like you're telling, but you're not showing. You know, like the red pill, blue pill scene. That one works. That one's great. All the action scenes are nice, but then there's just scenes where it's just he's sitting, where it's like they're sitting and they're just talking, and they're just doing exposition dumps, and it's like, I get what you're trying to say. It's about trans ideology. And that's what it's really about.
Yes.
That is what the Matrix is about.
I mean, that's a topic we could more further explore if we ever decide to cover the movies.
It is like, because like it insists upon itself is about The Godfather. A movie I initially wanted us to watch until Val Kilmer unfortunately passed away, and then I was like, no. Tombstone. It's got to be Tombstone that we watch next.
So we watched it. That was a good movie.
That was a good movie. Very good movie. We could probably do it sometime.
Probably.
Because The Godfather is like 3 hours long. Admittedly, there are scenes where it's just people talking. And listen, dialogue in a movie isn't bad. It's much needed. Especially if you're an action movie, you do need to just slow the pace down for a couple of scenes and just be like, hold it. Just stop. Let's just talk.
Like, for example, in Ghost in the Shell, there's a scene where Motogo goes scuba diving.
Yeah.
Which then leads to Bato questioning why she does it when there's the potential that her flotation device could fail and she'd just sink to the bottom of the bay.
And she just... I guess her response is just is something akin to, it's just something I enjoy doing. If I sink, I sink. If he dies, he dies.
I would equate that to, like, the reason why people would, like, skydive or bungee jump.
I couldn't.
But, like, to maybe a lesser degree?
Or go cave diving. I could never do that.
No.
Dude.
But I can understand why people would.
Yes. Listen. Deep sea diving sounds lit. I could never. That sounds lit. Skydiving? I'm scared of heights, so I could never. That sounds lit. Parachuting sounds awesome. Alright? Cave diving? Fuck no. Underwater cave diving? Double fuck no. I don't know how anyone can look at that and think that's fun. This is just a me thing. I don't know how anybody can look at that and be like, here's an underwater fucking cave system, no lights, You've got no natural sunlight. You've got limited oxygen. There's the entire chance that you could be stuck and die alone.
And then Jason Voorhees shows up.
Because
that is a legitimate thing.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Somebody put a statue of Jason Voorhees in an underwater cave for people to find.
God damn it.
And thankfully, I think they post indicators that, yes, this is going to have Jason here.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I know there's a couple of underwater cave systems that they actually have a sign like above it where it's just like, stop, don't go any further, you will die here. Because underwater cave systems are notoriously tough to navigate, and there's a lot of deaths in underwater caves. Deep sea diving, very few deaths, surprisingly enough. Parachuting and skydiving, there's like the odd death, maybe once or like every 10 or so a year. I couldn't.
The point I was trying to get across, and I think that the movie was trying to get across, is that this is for her a means of thrill seeking to help her feel more alive and conscious of her mortality, which becomes more apropos given that she spends a good chunk of the movie questioning her own existence.
So, in addition to that, this is actually another thing that kind of ties into this, is I'm going to be quoting I'm going to be referencing them again, but in The Sopranos.
Oh my God.
God damn it.
You watched like one episode, now you think you'll watch the whole thing.
Oh! Hey, come on!
No, you've watched way more. You've watched far more of the show than I have.
Tony in the Sopranos, Tony Soprano is a sociopath, but there's a scene where Dr. Melfi, Tony's psychiatrist, is referencing a condition called alexithymia, which is essentially for people with antisocial personality disorder. It is a compulsive need for action or thrill, because when they don't have that stimulation, they have time to think and stew in their own self-loathing, and they start to think about all the things that they do, which negatively impact other people. Not necessarily like with sociopaths and psychopaths, they don't have empathy. Sociopaths especially can understand what empathy is, but they don't inherently feel it. Psychopaths just don't understand what empathy is and never feel it. Even if it's explained to them, they'll never understand it. Tony is more or less a sociopath with antisocial personality disorder. And he, whenever he doesn't have anything exciting happening, he is a miserable person because he's depressed and he doesn't really like being in the mob. But having to be the boss of the mob means he has to do things like beat the shit out of people. And there's several times in the show where he mentions where he wished he wasn't involved in the mob and he could just be like a fucking car salesman or something. And it ties into this because Kusanagi seeks this stimulus. Seeks the stimulus and thrill, for lack of a better term, because not for the reasons that Tony does, but for the opposite reason, actually, because Kusanagi needs the stimulation to feel something. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That tied a nice bow on that, real nice.
Yeah, because otherwise she would be totally detached from...
She wouldn't... Yeah, she would... Oh, yeah, what is the medical term?
dissociated?
Yeah, she would be dissociating from her own body.
Which is enhanced by the fact that she has a cyber body. She's a full cyborg.
Yeah.
Aside from her brain. Which even then, they question, well, can you prove that it's my brain? Can you prove that you exist and it isn't... Like, yes, the brain case does have brain matter in it. There is brain cells in there, but can anybody truly see their own brain?
This brings up another interesting thought experiment here, since we're going philosophical with this episode.
Because this is a movie that's very philosophical.
The ship of Theseus, of course. If you heard it, an old ship owned by a man named Theseus. He replaces it piece by piece. At which point
At what point is the ship no longer the original ship, or is it still the original ship?
Yes.
Even after literally every part has been replaced, to the point where you could build a new ship out of all the original parts.
Correct. This actually brings up an alternative to that, which is Theseus's brain. Now, suppose a person's body is dying, and they wish to get a brain transplant, right? So they do get the brain transplant. Now the question is the brain that was translated into transplanted into the new body, is that the same person but with a new body, or is that a new person with a different brain? And stuff like that is just interesting to think about, because it questions the existence of self and consciousness. If you take out your brain and you replace it with somebody else's, are you still you? Or
that also does kind of tie into her seeing a bunch of other women with her same body type.
Right. Because it's a question of existence and self and ego, essentially. Not like, oh, you're egotistical or anything like that, but the psychiatric ego.
The ego, the id, and the superego.
Yes. God damn it. I have no mouth and must scream, for those who don't know. That's what am is, yeah. Yeah, so, I forget exactly, because, like, the ego, I believe, is the subconscious, and so the ego is the subconscious, the id is, I believe, surface thoughts. It's sort of the surface conscience, and then the superego is, I believe, kind of somewhere in between. Either that, or it's, like, the emotional,
I'm not a psychology major, so I would know for sure.
Yeah.
These are all Freudian concepts, so we're not even. I can't even be certain to say that these are even still relevant.
Oh yeah. Right. Okay. So sorry. So I had it off. So the id is like instinct. So the id is kind of your subconscious internal instincts. The superego is sort of superego is your thought process. Is the sort of how your how your psyche sort of processes events that have happened, and help has sort of according to Freud, helps you determine choices based on past experiences, and sort of judges what the best decision or what the decision is for you, sort of in that manner. And then the ego is the surface thoughts. It's the the perception, the thinking, the all sort of all of your perception and surface level thoughts. And because the id is your sort of your innate internal desires, your instincts, as I keep repeating. The ego is supposed to sort of mediate between your id and your superego. So that's according to Freud. And I don't know how prevalent that is anymore.
So, Motoko listening to the whispers of her ghost would be her trusting her instincts.
Yes.
Listening to her id.
Listening to her id. Yes. Freud compared the ego and its relation to the id to a man on horseback. The rider must restrain and direct the superior energy of his animal, and at times allow for a satisfaction of its urges if he wants to keep it alive and the species healthy. The ego is thus in the habit of transforming the id's will into action as if it were own. Okay. Yeah. Freud. A lot of his stuff has been a lot of Freud's theory has been discredited by and large. Same with same with Carl Jung. I think a bunch of his stuff has also been discredited. I can't think of any other like major psychologist or psychiatrist.
I mean, at the very least, they were actually trying to figure this stuff out. And psychology is...
I think Milgram is also a psychologist, too. For those who don't know, Stanley Milgram conducted an experiment in the 60s known as the Milgram experiment, where he would take a bunch of civilians and bring them into a room. And in this setup, it would be the civilian sitting at a desk with a button and a sheet of questions and answers. And then there would be a scientist, also in the room with them. And then there would be, in another room with a speaker, there would be
a person who would be answering the questions being asked of them.
Yes.
And for every wrong answer, the civilian would press a button that would give the answerer a shock.
An electric shock. And
it would increase in intensity the more wrong answers being made. However, unbeknownst to the civilian, the answerer wasn't actually feeling any pain and was just an actor being told to respond with as though they were being pained.
Yeah. And the experiment largely originated from the Nuremberg trials, because the Nazis, had used the excuse that, we were only doing what we were told.
It tested how willing a person was to follow orders that would be considered unethical or against their own moral code.
It was essentially, would an average citizen follow orders from follow orders that may go against their moral code just because it comes from a higher authority, or an authority that they feel they can trust, which was that scientist. Because every time they would start questioning it, the scientist, the purpose of the scientist in the room was to repeat the instructions back to the civilian, which was essentially that this test must continue. Please press the button. This test must continue. And the results were very staggering, to say the least. Not defending Nazis or anything, but more like the experiment sort of proved that people are vulnerable to authority that they feel that they can trust.
I feel it's kind of funny that we're getting so utterly philosophical for a movie that has as a draw, its Japanese poster is a naked Japanese woman with a bunch of cords hanging from her back.
There's a bunch of tits in this movie, too. Sorry, I figured I'd bring it down to a little more lowbrow.
I'll go even further, because the original manga has a straight-up sex scene. And the author of this series, Shiro Masamune, has done porn. He has done straight porn series.
That tracks.
And this movie is pretty darn accurate to the philosophical and technical aspects that he introduced into that.
Well, shit. I mean, it's not the only artist who has actually gone on to have a very successful series after doing porn.
Who said it was after porn? He's still doing that
while doing porn. All right, but like, cause Nagatoro-san was originally written by an author and artist who did and still does Doujin. And
I know that the author of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, Cool Kyoshin Kyo, I can never remember their pen name, but they have another series that just is super fetishy. It's like, oh wow, I actually should stop reading this. This is getting very awkward.
Wow, the person who likes big tit dragon maids also likes other fetishes. Wow. I'm so shocked. I'm so surprised, dude.
To be fair, Miss Kobayashi is pretty wholesome.
For the most part. Except for the part where,
I mean, the big titted dragon lady is probably pushing the edge, but...
Oh, I was gonna say the dragon that looks like a child is a bit, questionable.
Is it the dragon that looks like a child but has huge tits?
Maybe.
Because I think Kana is perfectly fine.
I don't know about that. That one's a bit yeah, Kana's a bit questionable. But that's a discussion for a different day.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah.
Yeah, back to psychology.
Back to psychology. Damn you.
Damn you tits. The cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Damn you wanting to fuck your own mother.
I think that's just a you problem.
Oh, no, it's Freud.
Oh.
That's a Freud problem, actually.
Anyway, back to philosophy.
Yes. So, yeah. Yes. Kisaragi. Ghost in the Shell. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say give it a solid 8 out of 10, 8.5.
8 out of 10. I don't think it's a perfect movie. There's...
No.
It is... Sorry. It is a fine movie.
I would definitely recommend giving some of the other portions of the series, like the standalone complex shows, a watch. Also, they also explore other philosophical themes in a very similar setting.
Also, this guy was so mad when we went to watch the movie.
I brought a Blu-ray copy and we watched it on YouTube.
Yeah, because it was free.
So was watching my Blu-ray that I paid for.
Yeah, well, you can watch it in your own time.
I have.
Good. We watched the Japanese dub as well, which is why we haven't really mentioned it.
And I definitely noticed that the English dub that they had on there were definitely based on the English dub of the movie, because there were moments where nobody was talking, but clearly somebody was supposed to be talking because there were subtitles.
Yeah, I couldn't explain that one either. That one was a bit off. If I had the chance, I would have probably gone to the setting. I would have messed around with the settings more and trying to find an English audio for it, but that was a lot of work. And honestly, the Japanese dub is fine. It's fine. We largely got the story, and we didn't really lose anything from it. It's just the subtitles were a bit weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any recommendations?
I spent this entire time trying to think of one, and the only one I can really think of is Akuma-kun, which is by the same creator as Gegege no Kitaro.
Okay.
It's about a kid who has the ability to summon demons.
Nice.
I've been watching the 89 anime. I know that there was a more recent anime that is on Netflix. They have that on Netflix, but not the original anime that it's a sequel to. that's kind of confusing.
Nice.
But it's a good show that Shigeru Mizuki wasn't knowledgeable about just yokai. He was also pretty knowledgeable about other mythological or spiritual entities from around the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really have much to say. If you like Gegege no Kitaro, Akuma-kun is a solid watch.
My recommendation is Half-Life. Just Half-Life.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. No, I've been playing Black Mesa, and still a good time. Still a good time. Half-Life. It's Half-Life. If you haven't heard of Half-Life, I don't know what's wrong with you. Play video games, dang it. Play more games. It's a, it's Valve's, preeminent series. We're never getting 3. Never getting Half-Life 3. Rip.
There are more Half-Life games than there are numbered Half-Life games.
Yes, there is. There's Half-Life. There's Half-Life 2. There's Half-Life 2 Episode 1.
There's Half-Life 2 Episode 2.
Half-Life Alex. Half-Life Opposing Force.
Half-Life Decay.
Half-Life Blue Shift. Which honestly,
Team Fortress.
Team Fortress Classic, actually. Not just Team Fortress, because Team Fortress itself is
a series unto itself.
Yeah, Team Fortress is actually a Quake mod that was then licensed to Valve, who then turned it into Team Fortress Classic and Team Fortress 2. A fun fact. Half-Life Deathmatch, which nobody goes on, because, there's Counter-Strike, and there's Dave Defeat, and there's
Counter-Strike, that's the one I was thinking of.
And Team Fortress. So it's like, why would you want to play Deathmatch on Half-Life? Especially on the Gold Source engine. Ooh, no. No, siree. No, Counter-Strike is big onto its own, and they all tie into the Half-Life Gold Source engine, which itself is a heavily modified Quake engine. Not a Quake 2 engine, but Quake 1 engine, which is crazy to think about. And then we have the Source engine, which is for Half-Life 2 and Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 and Team Fortress 2. But we're talking about Half-Life.
Notice how none of those have 3 in the title.
Yeah, none of them have 3.
Portal 2.
Yeah, Portal 2. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Valve can't count to 3.
That's the meme. But Half-Life puts you into the shoes of everyday scientist Gordon Freeman, 27 years old, graduating from MIT, works at the Black Mesa Research Facility.
And then shit goes wrong.
And it's all his fault!
Oh no!
Well, not really, actually.
It's not like he intended for it to happen, but he kind of caused it.
He is the, what's the word for it?
He's the patsy.
He's the catalyst. His presence is the catalyst for everything going wrong. If he wasn't there, it wouldn't have happened.
Should have just stayed on that train and gone home.
Should have just stayed. Well, what do you know? Looks like he did show up for work today. Someone owes me dinner. That's a line from Black Mesa. So yeah, and it's kind of an action platformer game.
First person
action platformer. Really good. First person shooter. Really good. Enemies are tough as balls. Especially in hard difficulty, which you would think, as you would imagine. And, yeah. Run, think, shoot, live. That was the slogan for Half-Life when it released. And it spawned Half-Life 2, which is a whole other dystopian can of worms, too. Not too dissimilar to Ghost in the Shell. Except instead of, multiple government agencies, there's just one government.
And it sucks.
It sucks.
Also, I don't think it ever gets philosophical, but I have never really played the game, so maybe I'm wrong.
Not really. Actually, no, it does. Actually. Because, well, no, not. Kind of. It's about fate. It's kind of like Half-Life 1 is sort of a allegory for sort of being forced into a linear sequence of events. So, there's that. Anyways, yeah, I believe that's about it for us.
Yeah, so until next time, I'm ProtoMet.
I'm Barry.
See ya.
Bye.